It was supposed to be an ordinary missing persons case. At least, that's what everyone thought in the beginning. A man vanished without a trace from a small town in the United States. No signs of violence. No ransom note. No witnesses. No enemies. Nothing unusual. But within months, the investigation would become one of the strangest mysteries federal agents had ever encountered. Files disappeared. Evidence contradicted itself. Witnesses changed their stories. And even experienced FBI agents eventually admitted something chilling. They couldn't explain what had happened. What started as a simple disappearance transformed into a case so confusing, so bizarre, that decades later people still debate what really occurred. And the deeper investigators looked, the stranger everything became. Welcome back to CaseVanta. Tonight, we dive into a mystery that challenged detectives, federal investigators, and criminal profilers alike. A case where every answer created even more questions. And by the end, you may find yourself wondering whether this was a crime, a cover-up, or something nobody has ever truly understood. The story begins in the quiet town of Blackridge. Blackridge wasn't the kind of place that appeared on national news. It was peaceful. The population was small. Most residents knew each other by name. Serious crimes were rare. That's why nobody paid much attention when 38-year-old Daniel Harper failed to show up for work one Monday morning. Daniel was known as reliable. He rarely missed a shift. He always answered calls. And he never disappeared without telling someone. At first, co-workers assumed he was sick. Then they tried calling him. No answer. Hours passed. His phone went directly to voicemail. By evening, concern began to spread. A friend drove to Daniel's house. His car was parked outside. The lights were off. The front door was locked. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet Daniel was nowhere to be found. The next morning, police officially opened a missing persons investigation. Inside the house, officers discovered something unusual. Daniel's wallet was sitting on the kitchen counter. His keys were beside it. His watch rested on a table. Even stranger, his phone charger remained plugged into the wall. It looked as though he had stepped outside for only a moment. But he never came back. Investigators searched the property. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of a struggle. No blood. No clues. It was as if Daniel had simply vanished into thin air. As news spread through Blackridge, volunteers organized search parties. Hundreds of acres were examined. Forests were searched. Nearby rivers were checked. Helicopters scanned the landscape. Nothing. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Still no trace. Then something happened that changed everything. A local farmer discovered a notebook near an abandoned road several miles outside town. The notebook belonged to Daniel. Police immediately secured it as evidence. What investigators found inside was deeply unsettling. The first pages contained normal notes. Shopping lists. Appointments. Phone numbers. Nothing suspicious. But toward the end, the writing changed. Daniel appeared frightened. Several entries described the feeling of being watched. One page contained only a single sentence repeated over and over. "They know I know." Investigators were alarmed. Who was they? What did Daniel know? And why had he never told anyone? The notebook generated more questions than answers. Soon detectives interviewed everyone connected to Daniel. Family members. Friends. Co-workers. Neighbors. Nobody could provide a clear explanation. Most described him as calm and responsible. However, a few people mentioned strange behavior during the weeks before he vanished. Daniel reportedly seemed distracted, nervous, paranoid. One co-worker claimed Daniel often looked over his shoulder while leaving work. Another said he appeared exhausted from lack of sleep. Yet no one knew why. The mystery deepened further when investigators reviewed security camera footage from businesses around town. On the night before his disappearance, Daniel appeared on camera purchasing coffee at a convenience store. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Then analysts noticed something odd. Daniel kept turning around. Repeatedly. As if someone was following him. But whenever the footage was examined, nobody appeared behind him. It looked as though Daniel was reacting to something invisible. Detectives initially dismissed the observation. Stress can make people behave strangely. But the pattern continued. Additional footage from other locations showed similar behavior. Again and again, Daniel appeared worried. Again and again, he looked behind him. And each time, nobody was there. The investigation attracted regional attention. Eventually federal authorities became involved. The FBI reviewed the evidence. Their initial conclusion was straightforward. Daniel likely encountered a threat he perceived as real. Whether that threat actually existed remained unknown. But then agents uncovered something nobody expected. Phone records revealed a series of mysterious calls made to Daniel during the month before he vanished. The calls originated from different locations across several states. Most lasted only seconds. Whenever agents traced the numbers, they found dead ends. Many numbers had never been registered. Others belonged to people who denied making any calls. Some numbers technically shouldn't have existed at all. It was one of the strangest communication patterns investigators had ever seen. The FBI expanded the inquiry. Analysts began mapping every call. The results were bizarre. The calls appeared random. No obvious pattern. No shared location. No common suspect. Nothing connected them. Yet somehow every number led back to Daniel. As investigators dug deeper, another disturbing discovery emerged. Several witnesses reported seeing a dark vehicle parked near Daniel's home during the weeks before his disappearance. Descriptions varied. Some said it was a black sedan. Others insisted it was an SUV. Nobody recorded a license plate. Nobody identified the driver. And despite extensive efforts, investigators never located the vehicle. At this point, the case was becoming increasingly difficult to explain. Federal agents considered multiple possibilities. Was Daniel involved in something illegal? Had he become a target? Was he suffering from psychological problems? Or was someone deliberately manipulating the investigation? Every theory contained flaws. Every explanation raised new questions. Then came the discovery that would turn the investigation upside down. A storage unit rented under Daniel's name was located nearly 200 miles away. Nobody knew it existed. Not his family. Not his friends. Not even his closest co-workers. Agents obtained a warrant and entered the unit. What they found inside shocked everyone. Boxes filled the room from floor to ceiling. Hundreds of documents. Maps. Photographs. Handwritten notes. Strings connecting locations. Lists of names. Dates. Coordinates. It looked less like a storage unit and more like an investigation headquarters. But what exactly had Daniel been investigating? That question would lead agents into one of the most confusing and unexplained cases they had ever encountered. And what they discovered next would make the mystery even darker. The discovery of the storage unit changed everything. Until that moment, investigators believed Daniel Harper was simply a missing man. Now they realized he had been secretly investigating something for months. FBI agents carefully examined every document inside the unit. The walls were covered with maps. Red circles marked dozens of locations across multiple states. Photographs were pinned beside handwritten notes. Some pictures showed ordinary buildings. Others showed empty roads, warehouses, parking lots, and remote areas. Many images appeared completely unrelated. Yet Daniel had clearly believed they were connected. One photograph immediately caught investigators' attention. It showed a man standing outside a gas station late at night. The image was blurry. The face was difficult to identify. But written beneath it were 4 words. He was there again. Agents searched through the remaining files. The same unidentified man appeared in several photographs taken months apart. Different cities. Different dates. Different locations. Yet somehow the same figure seemed to appear repeatedly. Was Daniel being followed? Or was he imagining connections that didn't actually exist? Investigators couldn't tell. The mystery deepened when forensic experts examined Daniel's computer. Most of the hard drive contained ordinary files. Work records. Personal photographs. Financial information. Nothing suspicious. But hidden within encrypted folders were thousands of pages of notes. Daniel had been documenting something for nearly 2 years. And according to his records, it all began with a single strange event. 2 years before disappearing, Daniel had been driving home late at night. Near an isolated stretch of highway, he claimed he witnessed a black vehicle parked on the roadside. Standing beside it were several individuals. At first, he thought nothing of it. But when he passed the location again the following week, he saw the exact same vehicle. The same people. The same place. According to Daniel's notes, curiosity got the better of him. He began observing the location. Over time, he claimed similar gatherings occurred in different places. Always late at night. Always involving unfamiliar vehicles. Always disappearing before authorities could arrive. The notes became increasingly detailed. Dates. Times. Coordinates. Descriptions. Daniel seemed obsessed with proving a connection. Yet every lead ended in frustration. Whenever he attempted to identify individuals, records disappeared. Whenever he traced vehicles, ownership information led nowhere. At first, FBI analysts suspected Daniel had fallen into conspiracy theories. But then something unexpected happened. One of the coordinates listed in Daniel's files corresponded to an abandoned warehouse. Agents visited the location. Inside, they found evidence suggesting the building had recently been occupied. Fresh tire marks. Discarded food containers. Temporary lighting equipment. Someone had definitely been using the structure. The problem was that nobody knew who. No fingerprints produced useful results. No security cameras existed nearby. No witnesses came forward. The warehouse only created another dead end. Then investigators uncovered something even stranger. Among Daniel's papers was a list of names. 37 names in total. Some belonged to ordinary citizens. Others belonged to business owners. A few belonged to government employees. At first glance, the names appeared random. But when investigators began contacting them, an astonishing pattern emerged. 9 people on the list had disappeared over the previous decade. Not all at once. Not from the same area. Not under identical circumstances. But all had vanished without explanation. Several cases remained unsolved. Some had received little media attention. Others were almost forgotten. How had Daniel connected them? Nobody knew. The FBI created a task force to compare the missing persons cases. The similarities were disturbing. Many victims reported unusual concerns before disappearing. Several told friends they felt watched. Others mentioned receiving mysterious phone calls. A few claimed unknown vehicles repeatedly appeared near their homes. The pattern mirrored Daniel's own experiences. Yet investigators still lacked evidence linking the cases together. Weeks turned into months. The task force grew frustrated. Every clue seemed to dissolve before producing answers. Then came a development nobody expected. An anonymous letter arrived at an FBI field office. There was no return address. No fingerprints. No DNA. Nothing useful. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed across the center were 7 words. "You're looking in the wrong direction." That was all. No explanation. No signature. No demands. Just 7 words. Many agents dismissed the letter as a prank. But others weren't so sure. The timing was suspicious. Details of the investigation had never been released publicly. Very few people even knew about the task force. Yet someone appeared aware of the inquiry. The possibility alarmed investigators. Security procedures were reviewed. Communication channels were monitored. Nothing unusual was found. Still, unease spread throughout the team. Then another bizarre incident occurred. One evening, an FBI analyst stayed late reviewing Daniel's files. While examining surveillance footage, she noticed something unusual. A vehicle repeatedly appeared near several locations connected to the investigation. Different dates. Different states. Different cameras. But the same vehicle. A dark sedan. The discovery seemed significant. Analysts immediately attempted to identify it. Unfortunately, image quality was poor. License plates couldn't be read. The driver remained invisible. Yet investigators were convinced the vehicle mattered. For weeks they tracked every appearance. Eventually the sedan led them to another location. A motel on the outskirts of a small town. Records showed a man had rented a room there under a false name. He stayed only 2 nights before leaving. Security footage revealed almost nothing. But one frame froze investigators in disbelief. The guest looked remarkably similar to Daniel Harper. At first, agents thought they had solved the mystery. Perhaps Daniel staged his disappearance. Perhaps he was alive. Perhaps he had been hiding all along. The possibility triggered a nationwide effort. Experts enhanced the footage. Facial analysts examined every frame. The results were inconclusive. The resemblance was undeniable. Yet nobody could confidently confirm the identity. Was it Daniel? Or someone who merely looked like him? No one knew. The uncertainty pushed the investigation deeper into confusion. Then, nearly 18 months after Daniel vanished, the most shocking discovery of all emerged. A backpack was found in a wooded area hundreds of miles from Blackridge. Inside were personal items belonging to Daniel. His identification card. Several photographs. A notebook. And a flash drive. The flash drive contained a single video file. Agents gathered to watch it. The footage lasted less than 3 minutes. Daniel appeared tired and frightened. The recording quality was poor. He repeatedly glanced away from the camera, as if checking whether someone was nearby. Then he spoke. "If anyone finds this, it means I was right." Those were the first words. Investigators leaned forward. Finally, they thought, answers were coming. But the rest of the message only deepened the mystery. Daniel never explained who they were. He never identified a suspect. He never revealed what he had discovered. Instead, he spoke in vague warnings. He claimed certain people knew he was investigating them. He claimed evidence had been removed. He claimed he no longer trusted anyone. Near the end of the video, Daniel looked directly into the camera. His expression was filled with fear. Then he said something that would haunt investigators for years. "If I disappear, don't believe what they tell you." The screen suddenly went black. That was the end. No names. No locations. No explanation. Nothing. The video created international headlines. Media outlets covered the mystery extensively. Online communities developed countless theories. Some believed Daniel uncovered a criminal network. Others suspected government corruption. Many argued he suffered from paranoia and imagined connections where none existed. The FBI examined every possibility. Yet despite years of investigation, none could be proven. And then, just when agents thought the case couldn't become any stranger, a final piece of evidence surfaced. A piece of evidence so unusual that even experienced investigators struggled to explain it. And what it revealed would leave the entire case officially unsolved. The investigation had already consumed years. Thousands of hours had been spent reviewing evidence. Hundreds of interviews had been conducted. Federal agents had followed leads across multiple states. Yet despite all their efforts, the truth remained hidden. Then came the final piece of evidence. A retired detective from another state contacted the FBI after seeing a documentary about Daniel Harper's disappearance. At first, agents assumed it was another false lead. Over the years, they had received thousands. Most led nowhere. But this detective claimed to possess information that had never been made public. Information connected directly to Daniel. The FBI agreed to meet him. What he brought shocked everyone in the room. It was an old investigation file. More than 15 years old. The case involved a missing person named Michael Turner. At first glance, there seemed to be no connection. Different state. Different background. Different circumstances. But as agents examined the file, similarities began appearing. Michael had reported receiving strange phone calls. He told friends someone was watching him. He became obsessed with documenting unusual events. He filled notebooks with names, maps, and photographs. Then he disappeared. Just like Daniel. Investigators continued reading. Their concern grew. Several names listed in Michael's file also appeared in Daniel's documents. Not all of them. But enough to be impossible to ignore. The overlap stunned everyone. How could two men, living years apart and hundreds of miles away, independently record some of the same names? The discovery reignited the investigation. Agents reopened old cases. Additional comparisons revealed more connections. Not perfect connections. Not enough to prove a criminal conspiracy. But enough to suggest something unusual was happening. The task force expanded its review. Soon investigators identified 4 additional missing persons cases sharing similar patterns. The victims had never met. They lived in different regions. Yet each reported feeling watched before vanishing. Each documented strange observations. Each left behind notes suggesting they believed they had discovered something important. And each disappeared without explanation. The similarities were undeniable. But similarities are not evidence. The FBI still lacked proof. No suspects. No arrests. No physical connection. Nothing that would stand up in court. Then, unexpectedly, the investigation suffered another setback. Several key witnesses recanted previous statements. Others claimed they no longer remembered important details. Some refused further interviews altogether. The reasons varied. Fear. Confusion. Relocation. Personal circumstances. Yet the timing felt suspicious. Critical information seemed to vanish whenever investigators approached something significant. Years passed. Public interest gradually faded. New cases emerged. New priorities took over. Eventually the task force was reduced in size. Then reduced again. Finally, only a small group of agents remained assigned to Daniel Harper's case. Officially, the investigation remained open. Unofficially, many believed it would never be solved. Then something happened that would become one of the most debated moments in the entire mystery. 3 years after Daniel disappeared, a handwritten letter arrived at his sister's home. There was no return address. No fingerprints. No DNA. The envelope contained only a single sheet of paper. The handwriting appeared remarkably similar to Daniel's. Experts later examined it. Some believed it was authentic. Others disagreed. No definitive conclusion was reached. The message itself was short. Painfully short. It read, "I'm sorry. I couldn't risk bringing danger to you. Some questions should never be answered. Nothing else. No location. No explanation. No indication whether Daniel was alive or dead." The letter divided investigators. One group believed Daniel wrote it. If true, he might have disappeared voluntarily. Perhaps he feared someone. Perhaps he suffered a psychological breakdown. Perhaps he simply wanted a new life. Another group disagreed. They argued the letter could have been fabricated. A deliberate attempt to mislead investigators. Without proof, neither theory could be confirmed. Years continued passing. The case slowly transformed into one of the FBI's most frustrating unsolved mysteries. New technology was applied. Old evidence was re-examined. Digital records were reviewed again and again. Still nothing. No breakthrough arrived. No suspect emerged. No body was found. No convincing explanation survived scrutiny. Eventually, senior investigators were asked a simple question. What do you think happened? Their answers varied. Some believed Daniel became consumed by paranoia. Others suspected organized criminal activity. A few believed he uncovered something dangerous, but misunderstood its true nature. Yet even among experienced federal agents, there was no consensus. No single theory explained all the evidence. The mysterious phone calls. The storage unit. The overlapping names. The anonymous messages. The video recording. The letter. Each clue pointed in a different direction. Each answer created new contradictions. That is why the case earned a reputation unlike almost any other. Not because it was the most violent. Not because it involved the most victims. But because it resisted explanation. Investigators could usually construct a narrative. A sequence of events. A logical conclusion. In Daniel Harper's case, they never could. Even today, years later, files remain stored in evidence archives. Researchers occasionally revisit the mystery. True crime enthusiasts continue debating theories. Former agents still remember the frustration. And one question remains unanswered. What happened to Daniel Harper? Did he discover something real? Did fear convince him he was being hunted? Was he the victim of a crime? Or did he willingly vanish into the shadows? Nobody knows. Perhaps the truth disappeared with him. Perhaps it remains hidden in a forgotten document somewhere. Or perhaps the answer is far simpler than anyone realizes. But until evidence emerges, the mystery remains exactly where it has always been. Unsolved. Unexplained. And deeply unsettling. Somewhere in an archive, Daniel's final video still exists. His final warning still echoes. If I disappear, don't believe what they tell you. For many investigators, those words became impossible to forget. Because despite years of searching, despite countless interviews, despite every resource the FBI could provide, they never found the explanation they were looking for. And that is what makes this case so chilling. Not the evidence. Not the theories. Not even the disappearance itself. But the fact that some mysteries seem determined to keep their secrets forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this mystery, and want more disturbing true crime stories, unsolved disappearances, and investigations that continue to puzzle experts, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This is CaseVanta, bringing you the cases that refuse to be forgotten. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.